Winter, 1985. The luxurious Silver Peak ski resort in the snowy mountains of Aspen, Colorado. As the evening begins, guests gather in the Grand Lodge for the winter gala. The mood is festive with live jazz, champagne, and a roaring fire in the massive stone hearth. However, tension simmers beneath the surface as rumors circulate about business deals, scandalous affairs, and secrets hidden within the guest list.
I know something I shouldn't.
Claire Sinclair, in particular, seems agitated and is seen arguing with several guests, hinting at knowing something she shouldn't. Suddenly, a snowstorm hits with unexpected ferocity, cutting off all access to the resort. The mountain pass is blocked, and there's no way to leave Silver Peak. Phones are down and radio communication is limited due to the blizzard's intensity. The power flickers during the height of the storm, throwing the lodge into darkness for a few tense moments. The wind howls outside, rattling the windows and adding to the sense of unease that has settled over the guests. The storm is relentless, and the lodge, once a cozy retreat, now feels like a trap. When the lights come back on, the guests find Daniel Reed lying at the bottom of the grand staircase, his neck twisted at an unnatural angle. The sight is shocking, and a collective gasp echoes through the hall. Daniel, a well-known businessman, had been the life of the party just moments before. Now his lifeless body lies in a crumpled heap, a stark contrast to the festive atmosphere that had filled the lodge. He is dead, and initial suspicions point to a tragic accident from slipping on the stairs. The guests murmur among themselves, trying to make sense of the sudden tragedy. Some suggest that the storm might have caused the accident, while others wonder if Daniel had been drinking. The air is thick with speculation and fear.
Someone must have pushed him. Claire Sinclair's voice cuts through the chatter, her eyes wide with terror. She had been standing near the staircase when the lights went out and insists that she heard a struggle.
However, Claire Sinclair, still visibly shaken, insists that someone must have pushed him. Her accusation sends a ripple of panic through the group. Could there be a murderer among them? The thought is almost too horrifying to consider, but the evidence is hard to ignore. Victoria Hawthorne, the resort's owner, takes charge of the situation. She's a composed and authoritative figure, and her presence brings a semblance of order to the chaos. Victoria has owned the lodge for years and is well respected by the guests. She knows that she must act quickly to prevent further panic.
Everyone, please stay in the lodge while we wait for the storm to clear. Victoria's voice is calm but firm. She knows that the storm has cut off all communication with the outside world, and the roads are impassable. The guests have no choice but to stay put.
With no way to contact authorities, she asks everyone to stay in the lodge while they wait for the storm to clear. The guests huddle together, seeking comfort in numbers. The storm rages on outside, and the lodge feels increasingly isolated. The sense of dread grows with each passing minute, but Max Archer, the journalist, starts digging into the circumstances of Daniel's death, suspecting foul play. Max is known for his investigative skills and has a reputation for uncovering the truth, no matter how deeply it is buried. He begins to interview the guests, taking notes and piecing together the events leading up to Daniel's death.
This bruise on his neck, it suggests he was strangled before being thrown down the stairs. Max's discovery is chilling. The bruise is unmistakable, and it changes everything. What was initially thought to be an accident is now clearly a murder.
He finds a bruise on Daniel's neck that suggests he was strangled before being thrown down the stairs. The realization sends shockwaves through the group. The guests look at each other with suspicion, wondering who among them could be capable of such a heinous act. As panic begins to set in, guests start pointing fingers, accusations fly, and the atmosphere becomes increasingly tense. Friendships are tested and alliances are formed as everyone tries to protect themselves. The lodge, once a place of refuge, has become a battleground.
The death will not be investigated until law enforcement arrives. Victoria's announcement is met with frustration and fear. The guests know that the storm could last for days, and the thought of being trapped with a murderer is unbearable.
Victoria insists that the death will not be investigated until law enforcement arrives, but her words do little to calm the guests. The tension is palpable, and the sense of danger is ever present. But Max presses on, determined to uncover the truth himself. He knows that time is of the essence and that the murderer could strike again. Max's determination is unwavering, and he vows to bring the killer to justice no matter the cost. A As the storm continues to rage outside, the true nature of the guests begins to emerge and the hunt for the murderer intensifies. Act 3, the investigation. This is where the story takes a deeper dive into the tangled web of secrets and lies that surround the mysterious death of Daniel. Max, our determined detective, is about to uncover layers of deception that no one saw coming. Max begins questioning the other guests and quickly discovers that each of them had a potential motive for wanting Daniel Reed dead. The atmosphere in the lodge grows tense as Max meticulously interviews each suspect, piecing together their stories and alibis. The guests, once strangers, now eye each other with suspicion and fear. Victoria Hawthorne, the resort owner, was involved in a dispute with Daniel over a risky business deal he had pulled out of at the last minute. Victoria had invested heavily in the project, believing it would bring significant profits and elevate her resort status. Daniel's sudden withdrawal left her in a precarious financial situation. Rumor has it she had sunk a lot of money into the project, and his betrayal cost her heavily. The financial strain was evident in her demeanor, and her anger towards Daniel was palpable. She had every reason to want him out of the picture, but was she capable of murder?
Daniel's last-minute decision to back out of our deal was a massive blow. I had everything riding on that project. It wasn't just about the money. It was about my reputation and the future of my business. His actions were unforgivable. I had everything riding on that project. The stress and anxiety of the financial loss were overwhelming. I felt betrayed and cornered, but I didn't kill him. I wanted justice, not revenge.
Claire Sinclair reveals that she had once been romantically involved with Daniel, who broke her heart and nearly ruined her reputation by leaking personal letters to the tabloids. The scandal had left her emotionally scarred and socially ostracized. Her pain was still raw and her anger towards Daniel was evident. She's still visibly angry and admits they had argued earlier in the night. The argument was heated, filled with accusations and unresolved feelings. Claire's emotions were a volatile mix of love, betrayal, and rage.
Yes, I was involved with Daniel. He betrayed me and made my private life public. The humiliation was unbearable. I confronted him that night, but I didn't kill him. I wanted him to understand the pain he caused, not to end his life. We did argue that night, but I didn't kill him. I was angry, yes, but murder? That's not who I am. I wanted closure, not blood on my hands.
Evan Lewis is revealed to be a secret business partner of Daniel's in an off-the-books investment deal, one that Daniel had been threatening to expose. The deal was lucrative but illegal, and exposure would mean financial ruin and legal consequences for Evan. Evan denies any involvement in Daniel's death but admits they had argued over financial matters. The argument was intense, with threats and accusations flying. Evan's desperation to keep the deal secret was clear, but was it enough to drive him to murder?
Daniel was going to expose our deal. We argued, yes, but I didn't kill him. I was trying to protect my interests, not end his life. The stakes were high, but murder was never an option for me.
Juliet Hayes, the bartender, was overheard having a heated exchange with Daniel the day before his death. The argument was about a secret from her past, one that Daniel had discovered and was using to blackmail her. Juliet's fear and anger were evident to anyone who overheard their conversation. She finally confesses to Max that Daniel had been blackmailing her over a secret from her past, one that could cost her both her job and her reputation. The secret was something she had buried deep, and Daniel's threat to expose it had pushed her to the edge.
Daniel knew something about my past. He was blackmailing me, but I swear I didn't kill him. I was desperate to keep my secret, but murder? I couldn't do that. I wanted to find another way to stop him.
Max notes that all of them had reasons to want Daniel dead, but none of them have clear alibis for the time of the murder, thanks to the storm-induced blackout. The storm had knocked out the power, plunging the lodge into darkness and creating the perfect cover for the crime. The lack of alibis made it difficult to pinpoint the killer. Suspicion spreads, and the guests grow increasingly paranoid as they realize they are trapped with a killer. The cozy lodge, once a place of relaxation, becomes a pressure cooker of fear and mistrust. Whispers and glances are exchanged, and alliances are formed and broken as each guest tries to protect themselves and uncover the truth. Max knows that the key to solving the mystery lies in understanding the complex relationships and hidden motives of each guest. The investigation is far from over, and the truth is more elusive than ever. Act 4, the clues unfold. Max goes over the evidence he has collected, piecing together various clues. He reveals that Daniel had been receiving threatening letters in the weeks leading up to his stay at the resort, and someone had gone through his belongings, scattering them in his room. Max also discovers Daniel's phone, which contains incriminating messages from several of the guests. As he confronts each suspect, a crucial detail emerges.
I remember seeing a figure in dark clothing slip out of the kitchen moments before the lights went out. And, I also heard muffled voices in a nearby hallway shortly before the blackout ended.
Max pieces together that Daniel was strangled in a back corridor, dragged to the top of the staircase, and then pushed down to make it look like an accident. But who would be brazen enough to do it in such a public place? Act 5, the twist. This is the moment where everything changes, where the truth is revealed and the facade crumbles. The tension has been building up to this point, and now the climax is here. Max finally confronts Evan Lewis, the investor, exposing him as the murderer. The room falls silent as Max's voice echoes through the luxurious lounge. The guests, who had been enjoying their evening, are now frozen in shock. Max's revelation is like a bombshell, shattering the veneer of sophistication that had cloaked the evening. Max reveals that Evan's entire business was a front for illegal deals. He explains how Evan had been laundering money through his investments, using his legitimate business as a cover for his nefarious activities. The guests murmur amongst themselves, the gravity of the situation sinking in, and Daniel had been about to expose him to the authorities. Max holds up a stack of documents, evidence that Daniel had gathered before his untimely death. The papers detail the illegal transactions, the shell companies, and the offshore accounts. Daniel had been on the verge of blowing the whistle, but Evan had silenced him before he could. Enraged, Evan had cornered Daniel during the blackout, strangled him, and staged the accident. The blackout had provided the perfect cover for Evan's crime. In the darkness, he had confronted Daniel, and in a fit of rage, he had killed him. He then staged the scene to make it look like an accident, hoping to divert suspicion away from himself, assuming he could pin the blame on someone else if questioned. Evan had thought he was clever, that he could manipulate the situation to his advantage. But he hadn't counted on Max's determination to uncover the truth. Now, with the evidence laid bare, Evan's guilt is undeniable.
Evan, your business was a front for illegal deals. Max's voice is steady, but there's an edge of anger in it. He has spent months piecing together the puzzle, and now he finally has the chance to confront the man responsible for so much pain and suffering. Daniel was going to expose you, wasn't he? Max's question hangs in the air, a challenge that demands an answer. The guests hold their breath, waiting for Evan's response.
Yes, he was. Evan's voice is barely a whisper, but it's enough. The admission sends a ripple of shock through the room. The guests exchange glances, their expressions a mix of disbelief and horror. I couldn't let him ruin everything. Evan's voice cracks with emotion. He had built his empire on lies and deceit, and Daniel had threatened to bring it all crashing down. In a desperate bid to protect himself, Evan had committed the ultimate crime.
As the guests react to this revelation, Victoria Hawthorne suddenly speaks up, adding a shocking twist. The room, already buzzing with tension, falls silent once more. All eyes turn to Victoria, who has been watching the drama unfold with a calculating gaze.
I knew about Evan's shady dealings all along. Victoria's voice is calm, almost nonchalant, as if she is discussing the weather rather than confessing to a crime. Her revelation adds a new layer of complexity to the situation. I was using him to fund my own failing investments. Victoria's admission sends another shockwave through the room. She had been complicit in Evan's schemes, using his dirty money to prop up her own failing ventures. The guests are stunned, their minds reeling from the rapid succession of revelations. Try to expose me, Max, and I'll deny everything. Victoria's voice is cold, her eyes flashing with defiance. She is a formidable opponent, and she is not about to go down without a fight.
But Max has anticipated this twist. He secretly recorded their conversation and reveals his plan to publish the story once he leaves the resort. Max's face is a mask of determination. He's come too far to be thwarted now. He holds up a small recording device, the red light blinking ominously.
I recorded everything, Victoria. This story will be published as soon as I leave here. Max's voice is steady, his resolve unshakable. He knows that the truth must come out, no matter the cost.
Furious, Victoria lunges at him, but the storm has finally lifted, and sirens can be heard in the distance. The tension in the room reaches a fever pitch as Victoria makes a desperate move. But outside, the storm has passed, and the sound of approaching sirens signals that justice is on its way. The guests watch in stunned silence as the drama unfolds, knowing that the truth has finally been revealed. Epilogue: Justice served. As the authorities arrive, Evan is taken into custody, and Victoria, realizing her reputation is in ruins, quietly leaves the lodge. The guests are allowed to go their separate ways, each one changed by the events of the night. Max, with a sensational story in hand, leaves the resort knowing he has exposed not just a killer, but a web of secrets that had been hidden among the elite for far too long.